the excavator didn't show up on time, or the
Right.
rebar guys weren't there, or whatever the concept was. Somebody delayed it. How do I account for that? I just suck it up and deal with it. And that's generally the reason why trying to really mix a heavy service business with new construction doesn't work.
I'm a safety razor guy, like the old school grandpa razor. Not
Yeah.
the was Sweeney Todd one. Okay. Well, I hit record 10 seconds ago. We're already on the air, man.
Well, there we are. This is how you do it. This is how you roll.
This is how you get started on the MTGA podcast, everybody. Welcome
right.
to it. Andy, back in the saddle that, we were together last week and traveling. We were doing some cool stuff. I had fun, and it's always a blast to come out to your place in Montana.
Yeah.
But now we're back and we're kind of just hit the ground running, back to normal, back to reality.
All right.
And in the studios. So, question for you. I know that you and I, for a long time, have just tried to more or less avoid like construction work when it comes to new construction, even some remodel stuff. Like it's more or less been off the radar, or we're focused on service, repair, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
With the plumbing and heating businesses, separate. Obviously, you're running your own, and you've got guys, and I'm over here on my own. Nobody else working with me, but we were talking the other day, and it sounds to me like you're looking at a couple new construction jobs.
Yeah, I've got a couple of projects that we've had that are existing customers that we have decided to take a look at. And I say very quickly, we don't do new construction. If somebody asks, no, we don't do new construction. And then I look back and go, well, you know what? Since the beginning of my business, we've done basically one new construction project just about every year. Yeah. But it's usually one, like I say, it's one.
Right.
Right. It's not a market that we look to get into to try and be a competitive player in that market. Every time that we have gone in and done a new construction project, it's on the basis that, hey, we're going to do this because of, a past experience where the customer's like, no, we just want Mickelson to take care of it.
Right.
They're less worried about it being, hey, where's your competitive bid? And it's more of, hey, this is what we want. We want this particular type of boiler. We want this type of heating system, and it usually falls in along that line of it's going to be a Radiant job. It's going to be, higher end, I guess, if you will.
Sure.
So
are you looking at one or two, three? What are you looking at right now?
2 jobs. First one is going to be a stonemasons like a training center. A customer of mine we just put in a boiler for is looking to build a new carving studio, basically, and it's going to have a kitchenette and a meeting space and whatnot on one side of it, and on the other side is going to be this stone carving studio. So,
oh wow,
pretty low end. Not low. I shouldn't say low end. That's not the right word.
Basic,
low requirement design. Yeah, it's a rectangular, as near as I know it. I'm waiting on a set of plans. Rectangular wood frame building. Okay. Going to be a frost wall with a 6-inch slab, and so we're going to probably go in there and do. I think we're going to do Viga Rapid Grid again underneath. I've been happy with that. The contractor has requested that I provide under slab insulation, so if we're providing it and installing it, then we're going to do something that we want.
Sure.
But so yeah, it'll be that. I think this is going to be a good one for a combi boiler. So I'll probably put a Viessmann in there, Viessmann combi, just for space constraint. Because the shop itself, I think the studio is somewhere right around 12 or 1,300 square feet. And then the living quarters or the kitchen area is another 500, I think. So it's not overly big.
Well, but it's not tiny either.
No,
I mean,
but it's.
I bring that up because we've had, how many challenges have you had over the years where you try to find a heating plant that's small enough without going directly to, you have to go to electric if you need to get super small.
Right. And so this one, I think, and this is where I like waffle, because I'm like, geez, I don't really need 199,000 BTU combi in there to heat, 28,000 BTUs on well, it's not even going to be 28,000. It's probably going to be like 12,000 BTUs of heat loss.
Well, you need the smaller one combi. So what's that, the 120?
120, yeah.
Yeah. What about a heat pump system for that? I mean, expensive if budget wasn't a problem.
If budget wasn't a problem, we would certainly entertain that idea. I'd thought about, well, maybe we look at a gas absorption unit. Maybe that'd be kind of cool. Take the heating plant right outside and then just put a tank inside and a radiant manifold, maybe a buffer tank. So, kind of the idea, the concept on that. We've done a couple of those. We've had a lot of interest. We've mentioned it here a couple episodes ago about having a lot of interest about air to water heat pumps.
Yep.
And one of the things that I've been kind of looking at as pairing those up is that Thermo 2000 makes a really sweet reverse indirect that has some outstanding performance. They actually make another tank called the Alt Source that is like you can get a 50-gallon tank with a reverse indirect coil in it and backup heating elements. And so it's got a controller on it that will basically bring on the backup heating elements if your alternate energy source doesn't keep up. So if you got a heat pump or solar, you could tie those into it. And then if they're not keeping up, it'll bring on the electric elements. So that's kind of a cool looking tank.
I bet you it's huge though, because you're using that
50
tank
gallon.
It's only 50, huh?
Well, you can go 50 up to 120, I think, is their big size. So they're standard 3 size.
Using the tank as the buffer, but the coil is what you're calling a reverse indirect. In case people aren't understanding, it's kind of the opposite. And so normally the boiler water would be in the coil.
Yeah.
And in the case of like domestic, you'd be heating that tank of water.
Correct.
But instead, you're going to maintain a really high temp in the tank so that when water runs through that coil, the coil's long enough and has enough time in the coil that it heats up through just contact with that submersion. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because it's like a series of coils. So essentially it's almost on demand how it heats the water. So it's kind of a unique, I shouldn't say unique because I haven't looked at anybody else's, but it's a neat design. And so I think that one is one that I might look at, and a lot of it's going to depend on looking at this building site. If they've got natural gas available, then we'll probably steer away from the heat pump side of things. We might entertain a gas absorption unit, but a lot of it's going to go down to cost. I mean, I could see that being on a project like this where it's I don't know what the budget is on it, so I haven't really gotten that. We haven't had that conversation yet to find out, is this a $5 million build, or is this hey, we're going to try and do this thing for under $350?
Yeah. Well, I heard you say artist studio, and I immediately thought, well, this is a budget job.
I
don't mean that in a negative way.
Yeah, I don't know, and that's a conversation that's in the works. So I just, like I say, I'm supposed to be getting a set of plans. Hopefully they're here the next couple of days. And
how disruptive is it though? I know the job, you haven't even got the job necessarily, right? Officially, but just, you've done this enough, like you said, and I've done it too, where I've taken on a construction job and, however apprehensive I am, the job is going to start and it's going to take time, and it takes time away from, in my case, the reason why I shy away from it more than anything is that if I'm on I can't be in two places at one time, and I don't have somebody else to send. So
Right.
if I'm doing this this, for instance, this job, like you're saying, this Radiant job, and I'm there for 2 days doing tubing and testing and foam, and because 2 guys, you could do that in a day if you're really pushing, but it's really kind of a 2-day job probably for the install of the tubing. Not even nearly as bad as if you were doing plumbing, because then of course you're 2 days minimum, just
easy 2 days each system.
Groundwork, then you've got inspection and backfill, and then you got to come back and do the upper. That's super disruptive in like the way we've built our business to be reactive, be able to react to calls that come in either on a daily basis or maybe just putting them off by a day or so with scheduling.
Right.
But when you're committed to that time, it's really tough.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. I had I don't know, I was driving yesterday afternoon, thinking about it a little bit, and I'm like, I'm going to put a clause in there that, we're going to schedule this job, and, if everybody's on schedule, then everything's great. And, if you miss your schedule, our scheduled date, then we're not coming back for we will be there at our next scheduled point, but not less than 2 weeks. It's like something like how, and then I'm like, okay, well, I gotta, right. So in the contractor that's doing this job they build a ton of stuff. I mean, they're not new to this game at all.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about them per se, but I'm, I guess I get in the issue where, hey, we've been on the schedule for a month to go to go do this slab. Right.
Yeah.
And then we find out that, the excavator didn't show up on time or the rebar guys weren't there or whatever the concept was. Somebody delayed it. How do I account for that? I just suck it up and deal with it. And that's generally the reason why trying to really mix a heavy service business with new construction doesn't work. And it can, if you got a big enough crew and you're dedicated, hey, these guys are always new construction. These guys are always service. And then your schedule's built for that. But you've got to be able to supplement those guys on the new construction. Where do you send them? Well, hopefully you can send them to Jimmy's job where they can start working on the top out, even though they're 2 weeks early, maybe they got some walls framed up, and you're not going to be in the way there or whatever. There's generally something you can do, but
I remember those days, early on in my own business, trying to fill out a day because something was off on the schedule. You show up and you're like supposed to be doing a final, setting fixtures, that kind of thing.
The tile guy's not there, hasn't even shown up yet.
No countertops. It's almost always that way, or no floor. Yeah, like you said, no floor in the bathroom or something. That'll get you. I remember more than one time, probably when I was working for someone else, but trying to brainstorm, sitting in the driveway of one place, waiting to get an address for another from the shop.
Yeah.
Showing up to do some, roughing work, yet no roof sheeting. They're setting trusses, and you're like, I don't know if this is really a good idea. Yet I'm admittedly have done it. I've done it, like I said, even for myself.
Right.
But you brought up having 2 crews or something like that, different, construction service crews. That's really tough. Although I think that a plumbing or HVAC, or I guess you could go over to electrical too. I think well-rounded individual would be able to do either, remodel, repair, and construction. I get that that's not always the case. And some people are just way better at one thing than the other. There's no doubt. Some people can do it all. Maybe they're not awesome at all of it, but they're fully capable. And that's the way, that's what I would hope for. That's what we would all hope for. Right. So,
I generally I look back at my days of new construction, right? So when I started in the trade, just like you did, I was on a new construction crew. I didn't do service work when I started as an apprentice. Nobody does.
No.
I guess I shouldn't say nobody.
Nah. Most people
it happens.
don't, though. Yeah.
Most people don't. but we started on new construction. For us, it was a high-rise building, like an 8-story building downtown. Built some great big, huge equestrian centers, and worked on all kinds of crazy big things, hospitals and that type of stuff. And then I started doing new construction after I started my own business, right? To try and fill in. And my problem is that I would look at a set of plans and be like, no, you're doing it wrong. You're never going to be able to work on this, right? And this is after putting, 8 years of service work, or almost 10 years of service work.
Okay.
On working on new construction stuff, where I struggled to turn off the water, and I struggled to have isolation valves at the unit. And so I'd get on these projects and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to do this remodel in this hospital. And I'm like, well, that's stupid. We shouldn't put any valves there. We should put valves on everything over here. Right. Well, I'm not going to make any money, and I'm not going to be competitive if I'm going in trying to reinvent the wheel so that it's service friendly. Because I guarantee you that there are very few new construction jobs that are going in that are service friendly. Right. It's like, hey, that's not my problem. Never going to see it from my house. There's a lot of that mentality out there. And I was, like, oh, I'm going to go in, we're going to do it with, whatever product. And it's not going to be the same way that they did it on the new construction job.
Right.
And consequently less profitable.
Yeah. I think resources. I think that big yawn there.
Jeez.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I think resources too, having the support staff is huge. That's the kind of the unsung hero in the shops that do construction. They don't get enough credit. It's the office staff. It's the people behind the scenes. It's the shop delivery and stocking and restocking and, redelivering, that kind of stuff that ultimately makes a company just more competitive and way more successful than somebody like you and I that even in your case with the, multiple guys where we just don't have those resources. So it's up to and left on the shoulders of the person doing the job, the plumber, right? In this case. Sure. And it just, look, I can lay down tubing on a floor pretty darn fast. I know that because I've learned from other people that I'm doing it at sometimes, honestly, at twice the rate, it seems.
Right.
And that's that's not an accurate statement in all cases, but I've talked to a lot of people over the years online and gotten to know people. And I think they ask like, well, how do you do it alone? Like, how long does it take you? And I tell them and they're like, what? Like it takes us longer when we have two people, it's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's just, it's how I do it.
It's how we do it. Yeah.
And I think that, like in the case of like radiant slabs and stuff like that, I wouldn't mind at all. And I do take them on. It seems like there's less and less of that work out there, or at least I'm getting less opportunity to do it. But I take that on gladly. Like if somebody wants a radiant slab, I'll do it. I jump at the chance. I love the work. It's actually my favorite work to do. I don't know why I like it as much as I do, but I do.
I don't either.
The plumbing side. So this is where my question is going. And the plumbing side of things though, like when people approach me and say, hey, would you want to work on this, cabin work? Like even existing customers, like you said, here's this existing customer, kind of hard to say no when it's at, you've got a great relationship and you're probably going to get the job, that scenario.
Right.
It's tough when they say like, well, we want you to do the plumbing too. Right. And my truck, although it does say plumbing and heating on it, the plumbing for me that's the remodel repair side. I don't do new construction plumbing. I'm so much slower than anybody else that's outfitted to do it. I didn't used to be. It's just, I'm not doing that anymore. And I'll be honest with you, just on a personal level, because, between you and me and the tree, I hate doing it. I can't stand it. I hate it. So I don't do it quickly. I'm not even motivated to like, just get it over with. Like, it's going to take me way too long.
Right. We're in the same boat. And I've said that to contractors before. I'm like, we're just not that good at it. And, we're slow. And and it's not, and not a dig on anybody. It's just, like I said, it's once you've gotten good at service work, you look at things differently.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to look at how that pipe run is different. Like how is that waste line from the kitchen sink going, 75 feet across the basement? How is that going to work? Yep. Do I need to put extra cleanouts in it? Yeah, I probably should. Well, what if, how can I get that clean out so it's at the front of the cabinet instead of the back of the cabinet?
Oh man.
Now
you're just doing all this crap that you don't need to do.
Right. You don't need to. But I mean, so let me ask you this. Here's the question. How many island vent setups have you done where the island vent back in the day was in the back, because that's where it's going to be at. Yeah, maybe in a pony wall or something, right?
No, typically they're in the cabinet coming up through the floor, and you hope you hit the back of the cabinet just dead on.
Right. Well, so have you ever looked at it and went, God, it'd be really nice if we did that on the side?
Yeah, I've done them on the side, and
it's pain, but
it's a pain. It's really what it comes down to. Right. I know where the back of the cabinet's going to be reliably, but the side of the cabinet seems like a mystery. It's somehow.
Yep. Yeah. I'm if I have that opportunity, I'm like, now install the cabinets and leave that ceiling open downstairs. We're going to run our foot vent and our drain over there, and we're just going to wait until the cabinet's dead, and then we're going to drill through the cabinet and the floor and put it all in at one time.
Yeah. You know what?
And then people are like, "Oh, it looks really nice," and I'm like, "Yeah, we had that opportunity." But when it's slab on grade or you're going to finish the basement ahead of schedule, no, you're going to get screwed.
I know. I don't want to go into depth on island vents, but I will tell you that myself and everyone I know has done them wrong, right? At least once, and done them right. I'm not saying that, you know what I mean, but it seems like more often than not, when I look at the diagram and I think of everyone I've ever piped, I'm like, do my best. What's his name? Kurt from Curb, Larry David. I'm like. It's kind of close, it works. It's maybe not textbook, and I get how they're supposed to, but it's like, I don't think I did it right. Whatever. They always work, it seems, somehow.
Well, it makes you wonder, is that really that important? do we really have to vent that?
I did a whole groundwork on a slab on grade strip mall for a bar restaurant. Still there. Still same company, everything.
Sure.
Where the entire bar was done on what essentially is 2 3-inch lines as like a series of island vents dumped into 3-inch in the ground, underground. It was, obviously it works.
Yeah. So have you ever done a combination waste and vent?
Yeah. Well, yes. Only to solve a problem where there was no way to do the vent.
Right.
So you go, was it 2 times the diameter?
2 times the pipe diameter. Yeah.
Yeah. So you go from 2 inch
to up 4 sizes.
Up 2
sizes.
Yeah. So you had a 2-inch, shower drain, and you ran.
Yeah. We had
take 10 minutes to fill the trap.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We had a truck shop that we had these big trench drains, and the truck side of it, there was 6 garage doors in a row.
Yeah.
And the building's 150 feet across, and they were like, no, we don't want anything on these columns. And so you have to get from here all the way over, I don't remember what it was. 80 feet or something like that.
Yeah, but the plumbing code doesn't allow for that.
Right. And so we had these trench drains, and we're like, well, how the heck? And so we started looking, and we're like, well, what if we'd made it a combination waste and vent?
Yeah.
Right. And so we're like, all right, well, the trench drains show up and they're 4-inch.
No.
Yeah. And so we convinced the inspector, we're like, okay, we're going to go from a 4 to a 6.
Oh.
Because we're never going to have 4-inch flow out of these drains, right? And because that was what he was saying. We were initially going to run 3-inch to them.
Okay,
was the plan, right? Because they were at a what are they called? The Terrazzo, what the brand? J.R. Smith, floor drains, trench drain system. And so they show up though. They have 4-inch outlet boxes, and then the inspector's like, "Well, it's 4-inch connection." But it's drawn with 3-inch, and he's like, "Well, it doesn't really matter. You know." And I'm like, ah. And so we were able to convince him hey, we're gonna go from 3 to 4 to 6 instead of 4 to 6 to 8.
Oh.
And so we ended up with these trench drains with a 6-inch P trap on them and a 6-inch floor clean out, right there at the end of it. And then they ran, tied together, and all of them ran to the wall. And there was a 6-inch vent going through the roof coming off of it.
Oh my God.
It was so dumb. It was just like,
crazy.
wow.
You probably could have vented it in 2-inch.
Oh, probably.
Yeah. So. And that, folks, is why we do service and repair.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's funny. As we wrap this up, I think of, you talk about that and what it took to get that job done. We talk about like how we're not good at new construction for plumbing like we used to be because we're just not set up. It's a focus thing. It's a gearing thing on the shop side, and manpower. That's another thing goes into it. And yet I can go in and I can rip out a heating system at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning and under the gun under some pretty poor circumstances and find myself turning the heat back on at 7 o'clock at night. Maybe I'm making a trip back to, really clean it up and finish and do a good job. But oftentimes I can get that heating back on that same day. And yet if you were to put a new construction contractor in that scenario, they're probably, and understandably not going to be able to do that. Right.
Yeah.
So it comes down to focus, what the business is made to do. And really that's what our conversation was today. Just wrapping it up here. Like, you got to be flexible, sure, but you also have to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are.
Yeah.
Which I know you do for sure.
Right. Here's where I think that some of that comes in though. I think pushing the boundary of your weakness is where you figure out how to be better at what you do. Right. Sure. It's like going outside your comfort zone. If all you've ever done is change 40-gallon gas water heaters because you know what, I'm really good at it and I'm not going to do anything else. Well, guess what? Yeah, you are going to you're going to get weak in those other fields. And, so a lot of times I'll look at a project and it's like this new construction, both of them that I'm looking at. They're not anything over the top, but it's going to set up a couple of aspects. One, it keeps me a little bit sharper on doing heat losses and figuring that stuff out. And secondly, it gets my guys experience doing something that they maybe haven't done yet. And so I'm constantly looking for how do we find something new? How do we find something that they've never done that they can check the box on and say, hey, yeah, I've done that. I understand now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I understand what goes into making the building. Right. And now, therefore, when I come back and, the next time I go diagnose a radiant slab, in my mind, I know what that actually looks like. Right. Now, granted, a radiant slab's a pretty stupid thing in terms of it's a dumb technology, right? There's no moving parts under there. There's nothing really.
I understand that. But you still have to be, you can't get past the fact that you're either going to be good or not good at it though. Right.
Right. Right.
No, it's good experience. I think that's almost a different conversation, but I totally agree with you. And I applaud you too, especially with your, you've got young guys, working for you. A couple of them are still, I'm not going to say they're green, but they're in parts of the job they are.
Sure.
Because they were good. Yep. They were really good at what they were doing before they came to work for you.
Right.
Now you're trying to extend their skill set.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's great. Yep. It's great. Well, I wish you luck. I hope that I hope you get the jobs, which sounds like you will, but
we'll see.
You know what I mean? Like it's obviously none of it's you're not guaranteed, but no, cool, man. Well, good. I'm not taking on any new construction right now, but I'm not saying that I won't. So if anybody listening wants to do a radiant slab, and I'm your dude.
I'm your huckleberry.
All right, man. I'm hitting stop. But before we do, I want to remind everybody you can leave us feedback in the podcast app you're listening to. If you're watching us on YouTube, get in that comment section, leave us comments. I read them. If you are asking a question, I'll try to reply. And Andy, how do they get rid of us? How do they get a hold of us outside of those two methods? What do they got to do?
So you can get us on the email, maketradesgreatagain@gmail.com. Super long. The other way, you could get Eric at Mechanical Hub on basically every social media streaming platform available. And then you can get me on Instagram at Mick_Plum.
And if you do,
that's it.
Bring donuts. We welcome that as well.
Yeah,
donuts. Have a good one, man.
Yeah. Yep. See ya.